So it's official, Microsoft is partnering with Asus to create and release a handheld Xbox set to release this holiday season. There's going to be two variations. There'll be the ROG Xbox Ally, as well as the ROG Xbox Ally X, which you can imagine the X is going to be like a more powerful version of the base version. A little quote here from Xbox announcing this, saying, quote, "The Xbox Ally offers great value for anyone looking to take their favorite games wherever they want to play," end quote. So this is the culmination of a long-running rumor analysis. I mean, I've been talking about this since more or less since I started this channel. It was one of my earlier videos, like within the first couple of months, about a rumored Xbox handheld. And because Xbox as a gaming brand, so a little bit of history, right? So Microsoft, of course, infamous isn't the right word. I don't know why I'm saying infamous, but are the creators of Windows, right? Arguably the most popular operating system of all time. No, probably, it is the most popular or widely used operating system. It's arguably the most important, most popular software, period, right? But for some reason they decided to get into the gaming market, building hardware, which again isn't weird because you think of PCs, but Microsoft doesn't make PCs, or if they do, they don't. That's not their main thing, right? So they released the original Xbox in 2001, which did well, but trailed behind the PlayStation 2, though it did, I think, surpass the GameCube. Just because the GameCube struggled a lot, right? Then its successor, the Xbox 360, did extremely well, at least initially. It really petered out halfway through that console generation, but like that 2005-2007 period, it was the console, far and away past the PlayStation 3 in terms of popularity. Then the successor to that, the Xbox One, even though it was the third console, it was really dumb. People made fun of it at the time. That one infamously trailed its competitors like Sony, and especially Nintendo once they released the Switch in the middle of that console generation. And now with their most recent console, the Xbox Series X, as well as the Series S, which is just a less powerful version of the X, that it also is playing second fiddle to the PS5 two generations in a row, where it's the undisputed winner between at least the two of them, because Nintendo's in its own little bubble, right? The undisputed winner between the two of them is obviously Sony, right? But Xbox's Game Pass kind of makes it worth it. And if you don't know, Game Pass is kind of like Microsoft's, it's like the Netflix of gaming, is what people often compare it to. You pay a monthly subscription, you get access to all of these games, like the entire Microsoft library of content, as well as third-party content. It really is if you're someone who plays a lot of games, like I've never been able to justify it financially just because I don't play enough video games for it to really make sense for me. But if you play a lot of games and you like to try a lot of different kinds of games, for the price point, even like at the upper end, is totally worth it, as opposed to buying all these games, right? But aside from that, Microsoft and Xbox has really struggled over the last decade or so since the release of the Xbox One. So moving into the handheld market makes sense, right? And I've talked about this a lot on the channel. Because by doing this, it really gives them a point of differentiation. Because Sony does have a portable console, but I think called the PlayStation Portal, but that is not a true handheld device because you have to be it's basically just streaming your PS5 to a physical to a handheld device, so you have to be within a certain proximity of it, right? So Sony doesn't have true portability. And Nintendo does, right? But neither Sony nor Nintendo is a true gaming PC, right? They are closed ecosystems where, there have been other handheld gaming PCs, and we'll talk about those in a second, that are like PCs, where you can load up any games that you can get onto your computer. You can have access to different digital storefronts. That's something even the Switch doesn't have. It's a closed ecosystem. So Microsoft kind of throwing its hat in the ring of having a true gaming PC, or a portable handheld gaming PC, is really, really important. Again, just to give it something to make it different from its competition. my argument has always been for what I just said, but then on top of that, if Xbox were to, well, I shouldn't speak hypothetically about it. Now that Xbox is doing it, what this does is, like, the pitch should be, and seems to kind of be, at least in some respects, that this is the best way to experience Xbox Game Pass. Because you can play Game Pass, you can access Game Pass on PCs and phones. Like, they really are, like, they really have leaned into this idea of everything can be an Xbox. Your TV can be an Xbox. Your phone can be an Xbox. So by making this Xbox ROG Ally X, that's the pitch. Like, this is the best way for you to play your Xbox library of the games you have purchased, as well as access your subscription to Game Pass. And Kotaku even ran an article that had a subtitle that said, quote, "The new portable console will be a Game Pass juggernaut," end quote. So, a little proud of myself that, I'm on the same wavelength as Kotaku, right? But what's interesting here, though, is that they're not, like, making this just from scratch, right, by themselves. They're partnering with Asus, which is a Taiwanese electronics manufacturer, making computer components and things like that. They launched the ROG brand, ROG, ROG, standing for Republic of Gamers, but I did not know. And the brand, the subset of Asus, was primarily used for computer hardware components. And then in 2023, to compete with Valve's Steam Deck, right, they released the ROG Ally, which essentially is just what now the Xbox ROG Ally is going to be, right? A portable gaming PC that is it's like the Nintendo Switch. You hold it in your hand. You can dock it to your TV or to a monitor. But unlike something like the Switch or even the Steam Deck, again, it's not a closed system. The Steam Deck you can turn just into a gaming PC, but you have to kind of like mess with you have to be tech savvy. Where, like, out of the box, this is essentially a PC that just has the form factor of a handheld gaming device, right? So in terms of the features of this, it'll be running Windows 11, which a lot of people aren't happy about because apparently Windows 11 sucks. I mean, I'm a Mac guy. I only have Windows for my PC for my gaming YouTube channel, Replay Rewind, link in the description. But I think that has Windows 10 on it, and it was like a hand-me-down computer I bought on Facebook Marketplace. So, I'm not really in the Windows world, but from my understanding, Windows 11 kind of sucks, especially for like a handheld touchscreen. I don't think this has a touchscreen, but like a handheld, like not computer, not mouse and keyboard interface, it kind of sucks. It'll most likely be running on similar specs to the current ROG Ally, which includes, a 1080p display, 120 hertz refresh rate, as well as support for variable refresh rate or VRR through FreeSync Premium. So basically that's all technical gobbledygook just to say that the visuals will be pretty strong, especially for the device at hand. There will be a dedicated button with the little Xbox logo that launches the Xbox app, right? So that's another thing that will make it different than the standard ROG Ally. And that Xbox app will be redesigned for handheld functionality, and Windows 11 similarly. And again, unlike something like the Nintendo eShop or the Steam Deck with Steam, you'll be able to connect to and access all of your PC gaming libraries, whether it's Steam itself, Epic Game Store, GOG.com. You'll be able to access all of your stuff. So again, it's a true gaming PC. Also a random note that I think I read that Roblox will be available on the platform, and Variety notes this is the first time that the game has been playable natively and playable natively, as well as being optimized for gaming handhelds, whereas before this, I think it was just like a website that you would go to, or like a launcher on a computer. We don't have a price yet on this, but the current ROG Ally costs about $800, which, big sticker shock, right? Because the traditional, the Xbox Series X launched at $500. So it's more expensive than traditional home consoles. But it makes sense because the economics of gaming consoles has always been, you basically sell the consoles at a loss, but then you sell the games at a massive profit. So you basically get people into the ecosystem, and then you upcharge them on the games, and then that's how you make your money in the long run, right? But with something like this, especially since, people could buy the thing and then never buy a game from the Xbox Game Store, they could just access their Steam libraries or whatever it might be. It makes sense that this would be a little bit more expensive, right? But again, like I've said, this is probably the best move that Xbox could make, right? And it almost seems like Microsoft is taking a page out of Nintendo's book, right? Where Nintendo, after the GameCube, really, Nintendo has always been different and innovative, but after the GameCube, I think they realized we can't compete with Sony or even Microsoft when it comes to console, like the tech part, the power of the console, graphics, things like that. And maybe we don't even want to, right? So let's just do our own thing. And that's how you get the Wii, and then the Wii U, and then especially the Switch, right? Again, this idea of Xbox Anywhere, which is very different than the Nintendo Switch, because obviously the Switch is portable, but you can't play your Nintendo library on your MacBook. You can't play, or your PC or your phone. This is very different. Obviously, there have been other gaming handheld PCs. Like we mentioned, the ROG Ally itself, right? But this being an official partnership with one of the major traditional console manufacturers I feel like is a really big deal. It also saves Microsoft a lot of work and time, money, time, and like the trial and error process, because they're not building this from scratch, right? They're basically just building off of the ROG Ally, using that as the foundation. They don't have to go through the trial and error of the R&D. They can kind of just take what worked about the ROG Ally, improve it where they want, and then do that. So now that Xbox has finally done this, right? Is this the warning shot now? Like, is this the warning shot in the handheld console wars? Or has it already started, right? With the Switch and then the Steam Deck and then a plethora of things like the ROG Ally and now the Xbox ROG Ally. Will Sony get back into the dedicated handheld space? Because, of course, they had the PSP, and then its successor, the PlayStation Vita, was a cult classic in a way, but did not do as well as they wanted, and they kind of abandoned it. So will Sony kind of see this and go, we need to get in on this. We need to have our own portable, if not gaming PC, something like the Switch, where, or not even the Switch, but something that it's a companion to your PS5. That's probably what they'll do, because Sony's greedy, especially when they do well. Sony does their best work when they're the underdog. When they are the undisputed champions of their when it comes to PlayStation and in the video game industry, it's usually when they get the most complacent. So my guess would be that they will develop a handheld, but it will be a companion to your PlayStation 5, where you can play digital games, but it won't, like, it'll be some weird thing, like you won't be able to dock it, or it'll be a much poorer performance. But another thing though, they might just kind of go, we'll just be the arms suppliers. We won't even get involved in the war, because, Sony is, in the last couple of years, has made some of their games available on PC through, I don't know if it's through Steam. I don't know what storefronts they're available, but you can play some of these PlayStation exclusive games on the PC. Like, the PC is almost seen as like neutral territory. So now you're going to have a scenario where you can play PlayStation exclusives on the Xbox handheld device, because it's technically a gaming PC and it can access all of these, different games. So the lines between home console, handheld console, mobile gaming, and PCs are really starting to blur. So, again, this just makes so much business sense, and, I'm excited. I'm not going to buy this because I'm poor as shit, and I don't really need it. Again, I don't really play a lot of games, but this is a very, very cool business development for Microsoft, and it makes a lot of sense. I think this is going to be a major turning point for them. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.